Welcome to Real Money, Real Life, the podcast where we get real about money and the messy human stuff that comes with it. I'm Linda Grizely, financial educator and your Me Money guide to financial clarity. Each week, we dive into financial concepts and money strategies, but we always tie it back to real life, emotions, mindset, and how money actually shows up day to day. If you're ready for practical tools, mindset shifts, and honest conversations that meet you where you are, not where the world thinks you should be, you're in the right place. Because you deserve to feel confident with your money and good about how you use it. No judgment, no lectures, and definitely no putting yourself last.
Hello, everyone. If you are listening, you're one of the real ones, the ones refusing to shrink their ambition just because motherhood entered the chat. Today, we're going to talk about money blocks in motherhood, the beliefs, pressures, and identity shifts that shape how women earn, negotiate, spend, save, and lead once they become mothers. This topic hits close to home for me because helping women unlearn guilt-based money narratives is at the heart of my work. And my guest today brings a powerful lens from both career strategy and wealth building. We're going to talk about why motherhood shouldn't mean playing small, how career and money are deeply intertwined, and how women can step into ambition, leadership, and financial freedom without burnout or guilt. My guest is Khiara Cureton. She's an executive career and wealth coach and the founder of AncHER Co. She helps ambitious mothers step into executive leadership, negotiate bigger salaries, and build financial freedom without sacrificing their personal lives. Through coaching, speaking, and her upcoming book, Khiara is redefining what success looks like for working mothers and helping women rise without apology. Welcome, Khiara.
Good morning. Hello. How are you, Linda? Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm doing great today. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation because, it's such a life change becoming a mother, and it just adds this whole different dynamic to your entire life. So I love that we're talking about this. First, I always like to ask, what inspired you to focus specifically on this topic, ambitious mothers, especially those stuck in middle management ceiling? Tell us how you got here.
Absolutely. So I am a mother myself, as well as a VP of operations and healthcare. And I feel like ambitious mothers are one of the most overlooked leadership demographics in overall corporate America. We have the data, we have the lived experiences, the leadership behaviors that companies say they want, but yet mothers continue to get stuck in, the most middle management parts of corporate America, which is, that middle management. And for me, it became almost impossible to ignore that throughout my own experiences in corporate America. So, I would see very high performing women, outperforming entire teams while also navigating motherhood. And still they were told, they weren't ready or they weren't visible enough or they should slow down or something to that effect. And at the same time, I saw companies struggling with overall retention once people become parents. It also, it relates to parents, but I specify specifically to women and mothers, with their culture, their leadership pipelines. And literally the solution was sitting right in front of them, their mothers. So AncHER was born to fill that gap. And my work helps ambitious mothers step into those executive leadership roles, expand their overall earning power while remaining present in motherhood. And then I also help companies understand that motherhood isn't a penalty, but truly a strategic leadership advantage for their overall company.
I like that. You also say that career and money are inseparable.
Yes.
So tell me more about that and what made that connection come alive for you.
Absolutely. When I first started this work, people would tell me you need to choose between being a money coach or, an executive career coach. And I was like, absolutely not. First of all, there's plenty of those that exist. And for me to differentiate myself, so many women are doing the work of leadership but not earning of that leadership title, right? So in my mind, career advancement determines your earning power. And earning power really is a trickle effect to everything else, your stability, your, future opportunities, your autonomy, how much you can outsource, right? At home to get the help, how much you can rest. So those are just a few examples. And so to me, career and money are not two separate conversations. The real turning point that kind of happened for me is when I realized mothers weren't only hitting a leadership ceiling, as we know as the glass ceiling, but they were also hitting what I kind of term as a wealth ceiling. So not because again they didn't lack, it's not like they lacked the talent or ambition, but because they were conditioned to accept, the smaller raises or waiting even longer in between their raises, the smaller titles and opportunities, and to wait their turn. So once you truly see the link between leadership and wealth for mothers, it's very hard to unsee it. And my work truly lives at the intersection of both.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that some of the conversations that I've had around careers and women and mothers especially, but all women really, is that they don't ask like men ask. They're afraid to create a conflict or say something like, "Hey, I deserve more."
Right.
And men are more willing to do that. And I think it's more accepted when men ask than when women ask because we're looked at differently.
100%. I was literally telling a girlfriend this morning, I was like, remember, have the audacity of a 25-year-old male with that ask. So
I love it. I love it. I have a sticker that I put on my mirror once when I was negotiating for myself, and it's still there to this day. And this was years ago. The sticker says, "You didn't wake up to be today to be a week blank blank." And I still look at it once in a while, and I have to remind myself, like, stand up for yourself. You know what you're worth, and live it.
that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, what does the sticker say? But I think we got that. So,
Yeah, a 3-letter word and then a 5-letter word.
okay.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about more about that. Like, tell me more from your lens. How do women start, like I said, sticking up for themselves or stepping in or leaning into that playing it bigger?
Yeah. So, one, own your ambition. I know that ambition has been termed as kind of like a dirty word, right? And I think ambition means different things for different people. It doesn't mean just hitting six figures. It doesn't mean, being at every baseball game, or and it truly is personal. So own that and slowly start to just like that is who you are. And that's kind of my story too, is like I've always been the traditional word I'm ambitious before I became a mother, right? And so we understand all these identity shifts that happen with motherhood and so forth. But I personally own that. And I was like, look, I always wanted to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother, but I don't want to lose that part of me as well. So owning your ambition, you just set us up beautifully for this, but asking for more and feeling comfortable with doing so. One thing that I work with my clients and even some of my friends, I'm like, practice with those who you trust. Practice with trusted colleagues, your partner. Really just get into that energy of asking for more. But also, what I say too is not just asking for a number and throwing it out there, but truly backing it up with the data. Hey, I've saved this company 23% in XYZ vendor fees, et cetera. Like really kind of like what we hear is like termed as receipts now. Use that to back up your ask. Because a lot of times, mothers and women overall, we're told, oh, just be grateful, be flexible, don't get too involved, don't rock the boat. But as you mentioned, men on the other side of that have no shame in their game with doing so. So those are just some of the few things that I kind of start off with is, really getting deep and understanding what is the block? What is holding you back? Is it a childhood, experience that you have or didn't have? So unearthing that, as I kind of like to go to the onion metaphor, and then starting to rebuild those small micro habits to get you to that other side of confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Love that. How can we figure out what those things are that back us up? If we're not involved in management, let's say, we don't have access to the numbers, how do we monetize that? How do we say, like, we've done this and this?
Yeah, I always tell my folks, keep a career journal. When you're in your day to day, you just do your job, right? And it just becomes like normal and it's like no big deal. But take literally, I say 10 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe it can't be every day, but 3 times a week or something, and just write your accomplishments down. And when you start to review that, you'll be like, wow, like I've really done so much. So that's one thing. With regards to data, I know some things are proprietary in companies and things like that, but I'd even ask your leadership and say, hey, like, I'm just wanting to own all that I've done for the company thus far. Could you help me put some data points to this or some value to it, right? Which is usually bottom line and some dollars. And say, can you give me an idea of what we saved on XYZ project? So those are two of the things that I'd recommend, because I do know sometimes it is hard. And sometimes companies make it hard to get that particular data.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I love that you say journal, like keep a track of your accomplishments, because sometimes you forget things that you've
Absolutely.
accomplished. Because once you've done them and they just become part of your job,
Yeah,
you don't remember
normal.
the fact that you are the one who created that and that it wasn't
Right.
there before you. It
And
just
this is
becomes
literally
routine.
mine. You can't see it because of the the camera. But anywho, it's a 99 cent, notebook, nothing fancy. And I literally keep it by my desk. And if there's something, actually I need to write in there from a big meeting I had yesterday. And you'll just be like, wow, an impact, right? It doesn't always have to be bottom line, but like, who did you help grow within the company? Who did you help maintain their job? I mean, there's so many ways of value. It's not always just tied to dollars.
Yeah, that's true. Mentorship and just
Absolutely.
helping out, jumping in where you can. All of that is adding value outside of
Absolutely.
your regular job description.
Yeah, the fine print. Other duties as assigned, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk more about ambition and motherhood and juggling the two and the things that come into play in women's minds, because there's a struggle there. There
Mhm.
certainly is a struggle there, especially as you're adjusting to this new life as a mother. Tell me what you see with women that are struggling to balance motherhood and being that ambitious career woman.
Yeah, it's, a lot of sense of guilt from, okay, well, my ambition takes away from me being a great mother or partner. The potential, oh, I don't want to do it because it's going to burn me out. And again, back to those identity shifts, which are huge. So I've seen that when you have that built up guilt, it makes women overall ask for less, right? They're like, oh, like I'm so grateful to be in this, executive director role. I'm fine, even though the market says that I should be, 12% higher with my salary. Um, Burnout, again, kind of what we were saying earlier, makes women stay in roles that undervalue them. But again, you're like, oh, I'm already so tired. I can't imagine adding more to my plate right now. Right. So you just kind of stay in that hamster wheel. And then those identity shifts or those little narratives that are speaking to a lot of mothers make women doubt their readiness for the next level. Right. So let's take those three scenarios with the guilt and the burnout and the identity shifts. If you were able to pause for a second, understand what the root of those feelings were. Um, you asked for more, which alleviated, again, outsourcing, right? Whatever that may be. Maybe a babysitter for 2 hours at home so you can get dinner ready or whatever, your setup is at home. That alleviates your burnout because guess what? You asked for a higher salary and now you're getting it. And then you feel that like true sense of confidence where you're not coming from a place of being tired and burnt out. And so that's what I generally see most of the time. It's like that constant battle between motherhood and career, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like that's exactly why Anchor exists. Like I want to help you step into how you can leverage each of them, right? Versus it being this constant battle between the two.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I think that we have guilt on both sides.
Mhm.
We have guilt about being a mother, and then we have guilt about how we're showing up at work. And it's just this big snowball of guilt.
Doesn't serve anybody, so let it go.
All
Easier said
right.
than done. I will acknowledge that, but
All right. Let's go back to the wealth ceiling and how motherhood brings that to the surface.
absolutely. So, as I mentioned, we've all heard of, the glass ceiling, and that's generally in terms of women and their growth in their career. But what I kind of, talk about with the wealth ceiling, it's more of a set of beliefs and patterns and systems that have kept mothers earning below their overall potential. So, motherhood exposes it because suddenly all of a sudden, you're making decisions not just for yourself anymore, but for your family, for your generational wealth, if you will. I often find too that women become a lot more risk aware when they become a mother. Again, back into, ooh, it's not just me and you know, it could be a caregiver. It doesn't even just have to be a mother, but anybody in a caregiving role. Um, and then overall, the data is the data, and you're just rewarded less overall financially, right? So it's not, again, like mothers have not just the glass ceiling or the leadership ceiling, you know, we can call it like the motherhood ceiling that kind of combines both of those together, right? And it shows up directly in your wealth and your overall leadership capacity.
Wow, okay. A lot to look at there and think about for sure. So when when you're thinking about that and you're thinking about how that might be holding you back, how do you start to understand that it is and where to think differently?
Yeah, and so I think one is the best thing is awareness, right? And so that's why in my program I really like, it may seem very like foundational, but I'm like, I promise you, once we uncover the why of what you're doing or how you're feeling a certain way, and I'm sure you could speak to this as a money coach as well when you're doing behavioral assessments and so forth, financial assessments. But once we understand, it's like a light bulb moment pops up. And I I truly think, again, very foundational. A lot of people want to skip that step, but that is the meat and potatoes of the work, in my opinion. And then I also have them state out loud and feel comfortable stating out loud, like, what do you want to be? I want to be vice president of a tech company. Okay. How did that feel? Right? What came up for you? Was your chest get tight? Did you notice your voice got lower? It's all about the self-awareness there. And that is the best starting point. And then I say, you know, reach out, you know, to a coach, somebody as ourselves, but just really to just guide you and really just unfilter those things that are the roadblocks in your way to get you to the other side of whatever your potential, you know, goal is.
Yeah, I think one of the key things you said there is saying out loud what it is that you really want to be. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, because I asked that same question too. And even to myself, it's hard to say it out loud because you feel like you're being, when you say it, you feel like
Woo!
you're like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And,
This is
and
real.
yeah. And you also feel like other people aren't going to believe it of you.
Right. Right.
And if you can't say it out loud and believe it yourself, how are other people going to believe it about you?
Exactly. How can you expect people to, I don't want to say take you seriously, but how do you expect people to ultimately say, okay, Kiara is ready for XYZ role if you can't say it yourself, right? So it's a lot of work, but that belief work does have to come from inside. And again, I keep using the word unearthing, but you know, peeling the layers to the onion, unearthing whatever you want to use, um, it'll really serve you well long term.
Yeah. And I think when you say like this is who I want to be or this is where I want to go, there's different time frames for that too.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, you might be reaching for the stars and know that that's 5 to 10 years out, but at least you know where you want to go. Or you might be like, by next year, I want to be
Right.
here. And that's okay as long as you're willing to say it out loud and own it. So,
No, I'm glad you brought up a good point. Like, I'm glad that if you honestly, especially nowadays with the conditions that we're in when it comes to getting another job, like it at minimum takes 6 months, unless you know somebody that's internal and they're literally, you handed them your resume and they're taking it right to the person and saying, this is the person. But it takes time, you know? And if you have a plan that's like, okay, in 12 months, I want to do this, great. If you're like, hey, in 3 years, I want to do X, but this is what I'm going to do to continuously grow and build my skill set, my network, etc. Totally fine as well. One thing that I kind of hear sometimes, oh, when the kids get older, and my kid is only 5, but from what I've heard, they only need you even more as they get older before they start driving. Okay. So you become a taxi driver. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that there's never like the best time. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I, again, like, these are my desires, these are my goals. How do I align my life to support those, not compete?
yeah. And so how does hesitating or waiting for the right time keep them underpaid and overlooked?
Yes. So, I mean, hesitation is a hidden tax that every woman pays, but in particular, mothers. So every time a woman says, again, I'll wait till the kids get older, or let me just get through this busy season. Mama, let me tell you, there it's always busy season. The kids are sick. The kids got sports. The kids are out of school for 2 weeks during the holidays while you're still working. You know, I should just be grateful. She loses that overall earning potential, that visibility, and most importantly, that momentum. Kind of like we were talking about the small micro habits. So companies generally don't promote based on potential. They promote based on presence, and hesitation totally erases your presence. So if you're just, oh wait, just do it.
Just do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a common slogan there somewhere, but
Yeah, and
yes.
that's why Nike. I don't want anybody listening to this. Send this to Nike. Sending it to me.
All right. So, yeah, take action is another way to say it. Just take action,
And it could be
right?
micro action. It does
Yeah.
not have to be, you know, get a certain role within 3 months and make, $100,000 more. It's like, no, it's like, it's these little micro I find that unsustainable, especially when you're managing a home and children, being a partner, a big career and so forth. It's like, what are these little micro habits to get me to the ultimate goal? And that's totally fine. Like momentum is the name of the game.
Yeah. I tell people try to do at least one thing every day that moves you towards your goal. That could be
Absolutely.
starting up a conversation with a person that you want to get
Yeah.
to know better. It could be sending one email. It could be taking one little task and saying like, "Hey, can I take that off your plate?" Or "Can I sit with you while you do that to learn that?" Just any little thing, one thing per day. You can be an overachiever and do more than that, but the
Right.
idea is just to keep that momentum going, whatever it
Absolutely.
is.
And I'm curious, as you work with women with money, what is the one thing that you consistently hear? Like, do you hear resistance to, oh, I can't just do the one thing? Or is it like, okay, I can do this one thing that's going to take me 5 minutes of my day?
With money, everything seems so overwhelming because people think like they have to do it all or nothing. Like I have to figure it all out or I have to do nothing.
Right.
So I do break it down and I say I don't necessarily do a daily thing, but
Okay.
it's more like okay, where are you just avoiding money? Are you not
Mhm.
looking at it? Let's start with
Yes.
just going through your bank statement and
Yes.
understanding where things went
Yes.
you
I
know,
love that.
once a month. Or like my me money, setting aside, let's just
Mhm.
start with just setting aside money just for you so you can spend
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
either without guilt or give yourself a container so that you're spending more intentionally, depending on how you spend. And maybe just start with that one thing. It just kind of depends on where they're coming from.
Sure.
But the idea is to break it down in littler pieces so it doesn't seem overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Yeah, you know what? You just reminded me. One of the exercises I do very early on is I take so I have them budget spending plan, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, hey, what do you think you're spending on these different buckets? Like you create it, send it to me. Let's talk about it. But my most favorite exercise is we look at the last 3 months of their bank statements and actually compare it to the reality because they're like, oh, I'm only spending like $60 on Chick-fil-A. And then you look and it's like 480 bucks. And it's just that awareness, again, that
Yeah.
awareness of where's my money going, and especially in the society of where we're swiping, like now I don't even have to take my purse anywhere, just have my phone and tap it. We lose that, that touch
Yeah.
when it comes to the dollar because it's just so easy to swipe. So one of my favorite exercises, and I highly, highly recommend somebody doing that, is just having a money date with yourself or with your partner, saying, hey, does our spending align with our values or our goals, right? And I think I've gotten a lot of eye-opening, responses like, wow, like I didn't realize I was spending so much on lashes or, whatever their money is going to that they didn't think they're spending that much on. So
Exactly. And that's how I don't know if you know the story, my me money concept actually started before I had a name for it because I put my
okay.
husband on a budget because he had no idea how much he was spending.
Wow.
And he would say things like, that doesn't cost that much. Like, that's
Yeah.
just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but you have blah, blah, blah that you need
Right.
with that. Like,
Right.
if
Times
you add
12.
it all together, it's a giant chunk of money.
Right. Right.
And so I put him on a budget. I was like, this is your money to do with what you
Yeah.
need to do. And you have to live within the means of that money. Now I already knew because I already knew our cash flow. So I knew what he
Right.
was spending.
Yeah.
He had no idea. He was like, I don't spend that much. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, here it is. You got
Yeah.
it. You
And
have
he's
to
like,
live within your
wow.
means. And
Yeah.
yeah, he started making better choices because when he realized if I say yes to this thing now, I might be saying no to that thing later.
Later.
Then he was like, okay, he started saying no to more things because he was a free spender.
Yeah.
Um, And I, on the other hand, then was able to spend money on things and not feel guilty. And I was only answering to myself. I wasn't answering to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that, I mean, that is how that started, is just
I
paying
love that.
attention to that one thing and understanding what you're spending your money on. So exactly.
Yeah.
And this, it's a simple thing to do, like you
It
said.
is. It is. But the hardest part that I find a lot of my clients is just opening up the app. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
banks are getting so smart nowadays, like just opening the app and I guess you could say facing reality, if you will, is the
Yeah.
hardest part for a lot of people. But again, it's that guilt showing up, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I had a client who said, they were working on getting their stopped being an avoider. So they had
mm,
started opening up their bank account every day and
mm,
looking at it every day. And I'm like, how do you feel when you're doing it every
right.
day? And they're like, stressed. And I'm like, stop
Yeah.
doing it every
Stop every
day.
day.
Like
Like
there's
once a week, maybe, or something.
like
Yeah,
there's
you got to figure out the cadence that works for you, you know?
there's a balance here. Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean,
Yes.
figure out what works for you. And I say take a step forward every day, but if it's stressing you out, then maybe rethink what that is.
Right. Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about mindsets and internal obstacles, because that's always a big part of real money, real life, because life is mindsets and obstacles and
All
things.
of that.
Yeah. So I talk a lot about early money stories and childhood imprinting, but
Mhm,
let's talk about, because haven't necessarily talked about this in terms of motherhood.
mhm.
So tell me what you think about that as far as it relates to a mother or a mother's wealth ceiling.
Yeah. So essentially, you're saying like basically their early childhood or money stories, I should say.
Yeah.
So I would say most of my clients or what I've been exposed to in working with people, um, okay, this may be a little controversial, but a man will take care of you. Right. So that
Mm.
is one that has come up a lot. And even I'm a millennial, I'm a middle millennial, if that's a term. And I am still amazed at how many of my friends, I'm openly talking about money, all of it. And the ones who are married, I would say a good 80% of them are still like, oh, my husband handles the finances.
Hmm.
And I'm like, whoo, okay, like, where is this coming from? Oh, it's just what my parents did. Okay. Did your mother work? Was she in the home? And most of our parents did work, right? But I think, again, it was passed down from their parents, right? Where the mother stayed at home and did the home rig and so forth. So it's just different. And I'm not saying that's bad. But that's just one that kind of lights me up a little inside because I'm like, I don't want to think dark or whatever, but I'm like, you need to have a plan, right? Life happens. And so would you be able do you know enough to take over the finances should something happen to your partner or the man who is taking care of you financially or the house or whatever. So that's one that I see a lot. Another one is it's selfish to want more. Again, I feel like it's that gender conditioning and unfortunate systems that we live in where it's like, women, you should even be happy that, you're able to get your own credit card right now, right? It's like
Yeah.
still some of those very lingering historical contexts that still are popping up today, despite the work that women have done and fought for us at this point in 2025. So it definitely plays a large part in the motherhood ceiling, the motherhood wealth ceiling. But again, once we dig and do that early work, that comes up and I'm able to almost pinpoint it to the T now that I've worked with so many clients on what that is and how it's showing up in their current state. But I just ask questions so that they can make the connection.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to what you said about the man will take care of me, because I see that a lot in my clients over the years, and even in financial planning.
Mm,
And I'm going to tell you this, that men are not taking care of you. They are taking care of themselves.
so yeah.
And I don't mean to man bash. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that
I know. I don't know your
they
audience, so that's why I was like, I don't know if I should say this or not, but
they are
that's the
they are
reality.
looking at the finances through their lens.
Absolutely.
And they're usually not taking into account your lens because they haven't asked you what that is.
Right.
So they might be doing things that are riskier than you would be comfortable with your future. They might not be thinking about the fact that you're probably going to live much longer than
I was just
them.
gonna say, yeah, like healthcare expenses through the roof. Yeah, all those little nuances, right? So
Right.
it's important.
Yeah. And they might not be thinking that, they might get hit by a bus tomorrow or fall
I
off a cliff
know.
tomorrow. And do you even know where all of the accounts
Yeah.
are?
Where
Would
are
you
the
know how to
passwords?
find them? Would you
Could you get in?
exactly? Would you know how to get in?
Yeah.
So all these basic things, like they're not thinking of you as much as you think they're thinking of
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because I've seen it, right? It doesn't happen that way. And it goes the same way, honestly, if the woman is taking care of things,
Mhm.
like they don't necessarily have everything. Like I have a in case of emergency
Yep.
folder, and
Yep.
in there it is all of the things, every single account listed. And now I have a password keeper. So I
Yep.
have the password to the password keeper, and all of the passwords are in the password keeper so that anybody, whether if something happens to me and my husband, like my kids would be
Right.
able to, or his kids, whichever, we're a blended marriage, but
Right.
somebody would be able to go in and get that information
Yeah.
if something were to happen to us. So,
Yeah.
but most people aren't doing that.
No, it's, and I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but I'm amazed at, even with my own parents, I'm like, okay, y'all are getting in your mid 60s, getting up there. Like, what's the plan? Right. And they're like, oh, are you trying to kill me? I'm like, no, I don't want to be fighting probate with the court because you didn't set something up. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one of the most things as a parent that you can do for your children is truly to set them up that one day it is a part of life. Set them up for success when you do leave this earth, whenever that is. We hope it's a long life. But it's just a reality, right? And have those conversations early. Like when I had my son, I had a C-section and everything. The next thing I did when he got home, I was like, we're going to the lawyer,
Yeah.
like getting this will, this trust, all my stuff. Like, let's get it together, and then that's not me putting my own date to myself, but it's truly just like, what if, you know?
Yeah.
And it really disheartens me when people, and you just hear about these stories and they're fighting in courts and things like that. And this all could have been prevented had you had the plan. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So everybody get your estate documents done.
yes,
And that's
please.
it's a little tangent, but
Yeah,
it's absolutely necessary.
absolutely. I'm still trying to get one of my girlfriends. Her daughter is 6 at this point. I'm still trying to encourage her to get it. And there's always like some reason. It's like, oh, well, we just moved. Oh, well, we did this. And I'm like, okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, it's one of the most important things. Um anyway, okay, let's go back.
Sorry.
How can mothers shift from guilt to grounded confidence in their money, career, choices, etc.? What's your
Sure.
biggest
So
advice you can give on that?
the first thing is choose identity over emotion. And what do I mean by that? Again, I identify Khiara as an ambitious woman. Take the motherhood part of my identity out. Um, and I'm standing firm in that, right? And what I mean by over emotion is the guilt or, all the little noises that we kind of hear, right? So I'm Khiara, the ambitious mother who has always wanted to be an executive in healthcare, right? Or I'm Khiara, the ambitious mother that wants to help other women and mothers rise into those leadership roles, etc. So you may feel guilt. I think that's only natural, but I really want people to operate from identity. So ask yourself, what does that mean? Ask yourself if it needs to be in the mirror with your nice sticker with that reminder, what would the executive version of me do? What would the wealthy version of me choose? Right? Like outsource. That's like my favorite word when it comes to thinking about wealth, because I think about wealth in a little bit of a different sense. It's not just about money, but it's about my time, right? Autonomy over my calendar, things like that, as much as I can. And then the biggest one for mothers is what would the mother I want my child to see model, right? I think that one, the first two, people are like, okay, but when you start tying it to people and their children, that's where I kind of see like the body language change. And they're like, wow, okay, I would want my daughter to stand up, or I would want my son to do the best that he could do, whatever. So identity is greater than guilt always. So if you have to stand in the mirror with your power pose, ask yourself those questions and truly be honest with yourself with those responses.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. Tell us who needs to find you. Who are your clients?
Yes. So I am looking for ambitious mothers, whatever ambitious meets for you. But particularly I work with women who are in corporate America, not so much entrepreneurs, who are stuck in that middle management and really desire to create and design a life that allows for your ambition to thrive as well as your motherhood presence, and not compete. So please, I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about the systems of corporate America, and I am on a mission to kind of break that down. In the corporate America, so we are supporting these mothers. But please reach out, find me. I love to just chat in the DMs even.
Sounds good. And how can they find you?
Yes. So we are on, or I am on Instagram at the AncHER Co. So that's TheAnCherCo on Instagram. And then our website is www.anchorco.com. So please reach out. I truly enjoy having these conversations, whether it be about money, whether it be about career, identity, motherhood, all of the above. And I hope you reach out and we have some good conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I will put those links in the show notes for you or for our listeners. And I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome. And if you are still here, I want to be sure you are aware of my free community, a space for real talk, fresh starts, and women who are done putting themselves last. And here is the closing nugget for today. Motherhood doesn't shrink your earning potential, it sharpens your purpose. Your ambition didn't disappear, it evolved. And if you're still here, thank you for listening to the end. You're one of the real ones, and that matters.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Real Money, Real Life. Want to see what's blocking you from financial confidence or discover your money personality? Head to the resources page at lindagriz.com for our free quizzes. That's LINDAGRIZ.com/resources. If you're loving what you're learning, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. I'm your Me Money guide to financial clarity, Linda Grizely, and I'll catch you next time as we talk more real money, real life, because you deserve to feel confident with your money and good about how you spend it. The content shared here is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not financial, tax, legal, or planning advice and does not constitute therapy or mental health counseling. Please consult an actively licensed and qualified professional for advice or help specific to your situation.